Journalists who once ignored whistleblowers suddenly had the world watching. And through it all, Elijah? Silent. Still in custody. Not a single word released. But his silence wasn't quiet. His silence was thunder. His silence said more than any press conference. Because it wasn't about revenge, or politics, or even justice. It was about recognition, and reckoning. And the world finally asked, not who Elijah King was, but why no one had spoken his name until now. He didn't leave in cuffs. Briggs did. Removed quietly. Flanked by two agents who didn't smile, didn't flinch. The same officer who once barked orders into Elijah's face. Now speechless under the weight of federal inquiry. No more body language tricks. No radio static to hide behind. Just questions, and the world watching. Before we hop on this incredible story that'll teach you some unconventional life lessons and leave you wanting more, let me know where you are watching from, and yes, I'm on a journey to hit 10,000 fully engaged subscribers. In return, I'll bring you some of the finest stories and twists you've seen in a very long time. Do we have a deal? Hit the subscribe button now and let's get started. They say the quietest street often hides the loudest secret. And on that warm Thursday morning, somewhere just outside Charlotte, that secret wore the name Elijah King. He wasn't a man who drew attention. Parked near the curb in a nondescript sedan, the windows cracked just enough to let the breeze slip in, he sat alone, shoulders straight, focus locked on the flickering waveform dancing across a small black device in his hand. His fingers hovered above it like a pianist before the first note. Not just any device. This one wasn't sold in stores. It was silent, shielded, encrypted. A tool for someone who once moved where maps ended. And Elijah? He was reviewing something, field audio, clipped comms, garbled whispers between diplomats and traders. This wasn't nostalgia. This was reconnaissance. Then, tires crunch gravel. A cruiser pulls up behind him. Blue and red lights flicker before the siren finds its breath. Officer Briggs. A name that carried weight in the precinct, not from medals, but from complaints. He didn't get out of the car like someone interested in conversation. He marched like someone already certain. License and registration. He barked before Elijah even looked up. Elijah glanced at him, then at his device. His voice was low, measured. You're making a mistake. Briggs narrowed his eyes. Step out of the vehicle. The pause. Elijah pressed one button, barely noticeable. Just a brush of the lapel. And with that, a dormant camera tucked beneath his jacket snapped awake, silently linking to a server 900 miles away, protected by clearance codes only 5 men in the country held. He stepped out. No resistance. No sudden moves. Briggs didn't hesitate. Slammed him against the hood. Metal-kissed flesh. Gasps erupted. A mother on the sidewalk dropped her grocery bag. A teenager froze mid-TikTok, instinctively switching to the phone's camera. Another man, already live on Instagram, whispered, "Yo, this guy didn't do anything." But none of them knew who Elijah King really was. They didn't know he'd walked through ambushes in Kandahar with less panic than he showed now. They didn't know the scar on his left rib wasn't from a fight, but from shielding a diplomat during a failed coup in Lagos. They didn't know the name, King, showed up in redacted files, next to phrases like Shadow Operation Aegis and Unconfirmed Survival. To them, he was just another man being wronged. To Officer Briggs, he was a profile, a checkbox, a match to a vague description that would be walked back later as routine. But to someone else, someone watching, he was a message. Because across the street, leaning on a cane, stood a man. Mid-70s. Linen hat. Pale green tie. He didn't speak. Didn't blink. Just watched. And as the phones recorded and the voices rose, his cane tapped the pavement once. Then again. And again. 3 times. Then silence. The kind of silence that doesn't ask questions. It demands answers. What happened next? What streamed to that classified cloud server? Why did that old man know Elijah's full name, rank and number? And why was he in the same city, on the same street, at that exact moment? You're not ready for that. Not yet. But you will be. This was no accident. This was the opening move. So before we go any further, What if everything that just happened was exactly what Elijah wanted? And what if Officer Briggs just triggered something far bigger than he could ever understand? He wasn't wearing a uniform when the world saw him, not the one that mattered, anyway. Elijah King, calm, cuffed, silent, his face locked in the frame of a shaky smartphone video. The internet did what it always does. It reacted, exploded, and then asked the question no one saw coming. Who is Elijah King? You see, before hashtags and headlines, before the footage of that officer slamming him against the hood burned through 40,000 retweets like dry leaves in gasoline, Elijah King wore silence like armor. The kind of silence men earn, not choose. Flash. Night vision. The storms. A whisper in Pashto. Flash again. A child carried through rubble, his small hand grasping the neck of a man in desert camouflage, eyes locked forward, boots moving with purpose. Flash. A black dossier stamped, red flagged, Yemen intervention, classified. The picture stapled inside? Elijah King. Younger. Angrier. Eyes darker than now. He wasn't a soldier. He was a ghost. The kind of man you never find twice. Flash again. A warlord in cuffs, screaming in Arabic, dragged out of a villa under the cover of dusk. Helicopter rotors chopping the silence. One man stays behind to guard the exit. That man? Elijah King. And yet, he came home not to medals. Not to parades. He came home to sweat, mitts, and rope burns in a gym where paint peels and the heating cuts off midwinter. He came home to boys with no fathers. And he taught them to fight, not for street corners, but for their future. The footage of him, face pressed against a car by a cop who never asked, never listened, it broke something in people. Because when you find out that the man slammed to the pavement fought terrorists in nations you'll never visit, and then gave up his peace to teach kids how to throw punches the right way, you don't forget his name. Elijah King. The tweets pour in like a flood. Journalists scramble. Veterans comment under burner accounts. King? From SEAL Team Echo? No way he's in cuffs unless someone wanted him quiet. And then, just then, a clip leaks. Not from the arrest. From a war zone. Helmet cam. Static. Then clarity. King's voice, low and focused. 2 civilians secured. I'm holding position. Another soldier responds, you're outnumbered. Fall back. King, negative. I don't leave people. The camera tilts, shakes. A burst of movement. And silence. Now, people are asking, why was he stopped? Why was he targeted? And who's afraid of what Elijah might say next? Because here's what most people don't know. Elijah tapped his lapel before the cuffs. A hidden body cam streamed everything. And what it captured hasn't been shown yet. Keep watching. 50 minutes into the story and something's already wrong in the air. The sidewalk hums, not from traffic, not from phones, but from tension. The type of pressure you don't hear. You feel it in your chest before your brain even understands. A simple street. A simple man. Handcuffed. Pressed against a hood that's beginning to steam under the weight of it all. Cameras are up. Voices low. But it's the silence that says the most. Then footsteps. Measured. So, unhurried. An older man pushes through the edge of the gathering. Not with arrogance. Not with entitlement. Just a kind of certainty. Like he's been here before. Like he owns time. He stops, right in front of Officer Briggs. No badge. No backup. Just 2 eyes that don't blink. A face built from classified pages and sealed transcripts. And he speaks. But not in English. You never broke cover, did you? Pashto. Precise. Unmistakable. The street forgets how to breathe. Briggs doesn't move. Elijah doesn't flinch. But something behind his eyes clicks. A calculation begins. Not of escape. Of exposure. This man is Martin Calder. A name that doesn't appear on rosters. Doesn't give interviews. He trained legends and buried ghosts. He's not here by accident. Martin looks Briggs over, like a tailor measuring for a coffin. Elijah's jaw tightens, not in anger. In control. Discipline forged in black sites and hostile zones. Martin continues, almost whispering now, but somehow everyone hears. This is the moment we trained for, Elijah. You never broke protocol. Not once. And with that, the crowd changes. It's no longer an audience. It's a field operation. Mothers holding phones begin scanning badge numbers. A man in a coffee-stained hoodie adjusts his stance, revealing a scar only those with clearance would notice. Across the street, a food vendor drops his spatula and taps an earpiece. This isn't a crowd. It's cover. Briggs looks left, looks right, and for the first time, he realizes, this isn't an arrest. This is a trigger. Elijah King, former Navy SEAL, decorated, disavowed, recruited into a ghost unit no longer funded but still active. The target wasn't the man in cuffs. It was the system holding the cuffs. Briggs is on a list, a sealed list, one that only 6 people were authorized to view. 5 are dead. The 6th is Martin Calder, and he's standing 5 feet away. Whispers turn to murmurs. Murmurs to questions. Questions to panic. Then Calder raises his voice, not to the officer, not to the crowd, but to every camera lens pointed in their direction. Broadcast this. Let them see what justice really looks like when the shadows fight back. And that's when it happens. The unmarked van parked 2 blocks away lights up. A satellite stream kicks in. Facial recognition locks onto Briggs. Cross-checks databases. Links appear. Evidence chains. Messages. Transactions. The crowd didn't gather by accident. It was assembled. In real time. On encrypted channels. Fed data. Because Elijah King was never alone. He was the bait. Briggs? The exposed rot. And Martin Calder? Just the man who lit the fuse. Now the question isn't if the truth comes out. It's how fast the empire will burn once it does. Stay with the story. Because what happens next doesn't just rewrite the rules. It makes sure those who made the rules get dragged into the light. The camera never blinked. 1:15 a.m., Washington, D.C. A secure server inside a nondescript government building blinked awake. Not because of a password. Not because of a command. Because a soldier in civilian clothes tapped his lapel in a quiet neighborhood 20 minutes earlier. The alert didn't ring. The pulsed. An agent in a cluttered internal affairs cubicle, coffee-stained mug, half-broken keyboard, watched a folder auto-load. King E4. Inside it, not just a traffic stop. Not just the rough handling of a quiet man. It was weeks. Weeks of wiretaps. Covert meetings. Bribes wrapped in newspaper. Envelopes exchanged in the shadows of church basements. Bank account numbers disguised as grocery lists. Officer Briggs. Celebrated officer of the quarter. Holder of a Departmental Valor Medal. Hero to some. But under the lens of Elijah King's never-blinking camera, something else entirely. The file grows. Minute by minute. Then it happens. A security leak. Not a hack. A forward. Someone inside the system presses send. First to one journalist. Then another. Then 6 more. Some unknown name with a burner Gmail begins feeding the entire network. Emails. Audio. Timestamps. The live stream? 2.3 million and climbing. TikTok cuts it into edits. Reddit launches a mega thread. YouTube channels open spaces with live commentary. Twitter, yes. People aren't watching a clip. They're watching Judgment Day. One comment reads, "This is bigger than just one cop." Another, "He planned this." And then a flood, threads tracing Elijah's military record, rumors about him working inside a task force, theories he was a plant to expose internal rot. But none of that is what matters. What matters is the camera. The one no one noticed. The one no one expected. The one that heard Briggs laughing about cleaning the streets while planting cash in a teen's locker. The one that caught a senior official telling Briggs to handle the loose ends like he always does. And the people? They're not silent. They're tagging congressmen, calling newsrooms, digging into precinct rosters, demanding names. Elijah isn't even speaking. He doesn't need to. His silence is now the loudest voice in the country. And in a boardroom 14 floors above D.C., an emergency session is called. No coffee. No jokes. Just a screen paused on one image, Briggs standing over Elijah. Behind that image, waveforms of corruption, whispers no one thought would surface, and the cold stare of a man who never stopped serving. The camera never blinked. And neither should you. Tell me, what would you have done if you were Elijah? Drop it in the comments. I read every word. The footage wasn't just a video. It was a spark tossed into a global powder keg. As dawn broke in Accra, a teenage boy watching the stream on his cracked phone paused it, zoomed in, stared hard, and whispered, "That's him. That's the man who pulled my mother from that camp." Within minutes, his tweet hit 100 shares, then 1,000. Then came the avalanche. A woman in Jordan posted an old Polaroid, her younger self clutching a battered UN blanket, a man in shadows handing her water. "He gave us his rations when we were trapped near the border. From Serbia, he carried my brother, injured, over 12 kilometers. No cameras. No fanfare. In Port-au-Prince, they said his name was Elias back then. But we knew. We knew he wasn't just a soldier." The hashtag appeared quietly, #KingElijah. By lunchtime in Paris, it was trending in 32 countries. But it wasn't just trend chasing. This wasn't performative outrage. This was memory turning into movement. Photos, testimonials, old mission logs, scrubbed from public record, resurfaced through VPN leaks, screenshots, voice notes. A retired NATO medic shared encrypted files from a 2007 deployment, confirming Elijah King had once defused a tribal conflict without drawing a single weapon. Just a translator, a map, and his word. People didn't just want Briggs gone. They wanted every sealed file opened. They wanted the names of every silent hero buried under bureaucratic noise. They wanted the resignation of officials who'd signed off on cover-ups. Airports erupted with protests. Law schools launched petitions. Airdrops of the footage hit regions with censored networks. Journalists who once ignored whistleblowers suddenly had the world watching. And through it all, Elijah? Silent. Still in custody. Not a single word released. But his silence wasn't quiet. His silence was thunder. His silence said more than any press conference. Because it wasn't about revenge. Or politics. Or even justice. It was about recognition. And reckoning. And the world finally asked, not who Elijah King was, but why no one had spoken his name until now. He didn't leave in cuffs. Briggs did. Removed quietly. Flanked by 2 agents who didn't smile, didn't flinch. The same officer who once barked orders into Elijah's face. Now speechless under the weight of federal inquiry. No more body language tricks. No radio static to hide behind. Just questions, and the world watching. Elijah? Refused every interview. No late-night specials. No exclusive features. He didn't chase microphones. He built something instead. Camera. Citizens against misuse of enforcement and racial abuse. No logos. No corporate sponsors. Just street-level activism backed by tactical minds. He turned live-stream fury into classroom fire. Started showing teenagers how to record with intent. How to speak with precision. How to deconstruct fear with evidence. No hashtags. Just habits. And then, one final frame. No anthem. No applause. Just a dimly lit gym on a Tuesday evening. The smell of sweat and chalk in the air. Elijah stands alone, barefoot on the mat, stretching silently. The door creaks. A few kids trickle in, quiet, unsure. Some wear hand-me-downs. Some wear trauma-like armor. None speak. He doesn't need them to. He looks up, taps his palm to his chest once, then speaks. Lesson 1. You never raise your voice. You raise your standard. That's it. When silence gets loud, when systems glitch, crack, break, there are those who disappear. And there are those who build. If this story made you feel something, don't scroll past. Share it. Pass it on. Because silence forgets. But people remember. Subscribe. And stay alert. The world's not just watching. It's learning.